Hello, and welcome to On the Way Moments, a podcast from St. Anthony on the Desert Episcopal Church here in Scottsdale, Arizona. And on this podcast, we hear stories from some really interesting people, and we hear about the on the way moments they've had in their own lifetimes. So today I'm so excited to welcome my good friend Melody Taylor. Melody and I go back a long way. And you may recognize Melody from our podcast last month. She was on our Christmas memories, and we had such a good time that we wanted to have you back again.
Thank you.
So welcome, Melody.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here.
Oh, well, we're glad to have you.
Thanks.
So how about a little background?
Wow. So I'm a cradle Episcopalian. Grew up right here in Scottsdale, Arizona. Was a member of an Episcopal church my entire life until I had two children. And then we moved from that church to this church. So two churches in my lifetime. So I guess when we like one, we stay there.
And we're glad you do.
Thank you. So we've been here since 1995. And we've raised our three children here, my husband and I. And during that time, I was in corporate America. I was a buyer and assistant store manager for Dillard's department stores.
I forgot about that.
And I loved it. I traveled. I worked with lots of people. It was very exciting. But my husband was a police officer, and he worked nights. And I worked all these crazy days and traveled and everything. And after having two children, we decided that maybe that wasn't the lifestyle we wanted to have. And so my husband actually went to a training in Maryland. My parents, who were my amazing supporters, went to a cruise in the Panama Canal. And I stayed home, worked full time with my two children. And that was before cell phones. And I quit my full-time job because I felt like we couldn't do it all. So they came back, and I had procured a part-time job in the industry. And so that was the beginning of a lifestyle change for me.
For sure, for sure.
So then I worked part-time in the retail world, and then we had our third child, our daughter Faith, who was also raised here. Just some things started to change, and I changed my career path and everything at that point.
Yeah, your career is really different from what you were doing.
It is.
Yeah,
it is.
well, tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, my career path is a little bit different now. After that, when I had Faith, we had some medical challenges during that time. And I actually took a year off of work and stayed home. And then I thought, oh gosh, I don't know if I can do this. And my husband had to medically retire from the police department. And we began to panic, to be honest. And so I thought, I'm going to go back to work. And I ran into a friend who was a preschool director. And she said, oh gosh, Melody, I really need a preschool teacher at my preschool. And I had been teaching children's chapel and Sunday school here, gosh, since Shane and Austin were toddlers. And so I decided that was something I would love to do.
Wow.
So my friend put me through the interview process. I had enough training actually here on the Sundays to procure that job. So I went to work for her part-time. And that was when I did that when Faith went to kindergarten. And 18 years later, I'm still there. And it's a gift to be able to teach in a Christian preschool to young 3 and 4 year olds.
Oh, that's wonderful. I didn't realize you had been at the same preschool all this time.
Yes, I have. I've been the 3s and 4s teacher there with a person. She teaches in the classroom next door. But yes, since Faith went to kindergarten.
Yeah.
And the greatest gift, I think, was when I did that. When I worked full time when my kids were young, they knew I was working. They knew I was traveling. They knew that my parents would come and stay the night because Jack was working nights and things. And I used to struggle with, gosh, what is my role in life? Am I supposed to be this mom or am I this career woman? What am I supposed to be doing? And I struggled with that. But the greatest gift was, I'll never forget, Shane and Austin, they would say to me, you don't really work. Because I would drop them at school. I would go work. As soon as I dropped them off, I would get off when they got out of school. I would pick them up and bring them back home. And they thought that it was still just that full-time mom thing. Mm-hmm. And I thought, that is the greatest gift. This is the job I want to do. And then in a few years, I'll go back full-time somewhere else. But here I am.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Now, things have changed a little bit
Yes.
in the past couple of years. So tell us a little bit about that.
So I really believe that children do their best when they are in an environment, they know the routine, they've got a schedule, they know that the people who are with them love them. My children are amazing at the school. And so the hardest thing was, as we went through that beginning of the pandemic, we weren't telling them anything. We were just still doing regular school while having these conversations with families outside of a school about what's going to happen what if somebody gets sick, what if we close down. But the children never knew any of that was happening. So it was in March, and we had our parent-teacher conferences on a Thursday and a Friday.
Is this 2020?
2020.
Okay.
So I remember on Tuesday and Wednesday me saying to the children, have a wonderful long weekend. Come back on Monday and Tuesday. It's going to be great. I'm going to meet with your parents. Tell me about your weekend when you come back, because that's what we did. We prepared them to come back and be with us. I had my conferences on Thursday and Friday. Things were still fairly normal. And then on Sunday, we got the call that we were closing and nobody could come back. And all I could think about was, oh my gosh, those poor children. They're going to think that I said, I'm here for you. I love you. Come back. And now they're never going to see me again. So they said, originally they said 2 weeks, just give us 2 weeks and you'll be back. And so we took the 2 weeks off, just kind of like it was a spring break. And we thought we'd go back. Well, those 2 weeks passed and we didn't go back. So then the pastor at my church and the school board and everybody said, so let's do online school. And we all said, oh my gosh, we are in-person teachers. It was exactly what you went through here. Exactly. I would go to the school, I'd put my phone up, and nobody was allowed to be there with me. So I had to be alone. So I'd prop my phone up on books, and I would stand in front of my board, and I would teach the lesson and record it and post it to YouTube. And it was ridiculous.
I know.
It was like, okay, truly, what are my children getting from this? Because so much of teaching is interactive and them knowing.
Of course.
So I did that for about, 3 or 4 lessons. And then I realized that wasn't working. So I changed my whole plan, and I started just recording snippets. 5 to 7 minutes. I would read a story and share an activity that we would do in class. Faith and I would go to our kitchen and make ants on a log and tell them what to get and do that at home. I had my assistant reading books. We would do scavenger hunts and send them out. I emailed lesson plans and activities because I really wanted to still minister to those children and those families and let them know I loved them. And then I realized, gosh, these poor families. I miss my children, and now these parents are home full-time with their children and their older children who need to be homeschooled with online schooling. And a lot of my job, I really think, is ministering to the whole family. I'm called to teach those children, but I want to share God's love with the moms, the dads, the grandpas. So then I realized my job is now to fulfill a need in their home where the children can just be busy for 5 to 7 minutes. So a mom can cook dinner. So a dad can show a child how to do the math lesson, things like that. So that's what it became. So I have an entire YouTube channel of crazy
Of course
things.
you do. Of course you do.
Which my husband and my children had to help me figure out.
Now, is this YouTube channel open to the public?
Oh, yes. It's
Okay.
Mrs. Taylor's YouTube channel.
Oh, okay. That's what they should look for. Huh?
Yes.
I'm going to check it out this afternoon.
It'll be fun. So, I have that, but it was not my joy to do it that way. If I wanted to do that, I could do that, but I want to be with the children.
Of course.
So that was a really hard thing when we closed.
Yeah. So, in the parents, how did you see the parents coping with the pandemic?
It was so hard on them. You think about these children, the children had no idea what was happening. Yeah. And I think the hardest thing was for parents to decide what to tell them. Do we just outright tell them there's a pandemic, people are sick, people are dying? Or do we say, there's just some things happening in the world. We're just not going to go to the park. We're not going to go to swim lessons. And I think it was so hard on parents because they love their children and they want to do what's best. And you know what? I always say you get one chance. You don't get to practice again. This is
No.
it.
And that chance doesn't go very long either.
Right.
I think, what is it, by 12 or so, you've had about all the influence you're going to have.
Right. And children are who children are.
Exactly.
We raise the children in the same home, same parents, same rules. They're different.
Yeah.
And how you teach them or share with them needs to be what's best for them.
Right.
So the parents really struggled with what was best for their children. And they struggled with, can I let them visit their grandparents? Am I putting somebody at risk if I let my child be somewhere? I saw families where the entire family got COVID, children. And, I would deliver things to some of my family's doors and drop it off. I didn't see them. But, they were scared.
Of course, everybody was. Yes.
So,
all the unknowns.
right. And I still feel like we still have some of that. I still have parents that come in and are like, I don't know what the right thing is to do. Should I put my child in school? Am I putting my son, Shane, and I took care of my dad. And we said every day, I would say to my families, I come here because I want to be with your children. This was once we were back in person. But I take care of my dad. And so I need you to help me. If your child is not well, they need to stay home. And so one of the things we did was we were able to open in fall of 2020. We opened in September,
Oh, okay.
but with completely different rules.
I'm sure.
So we had the parents pull up to the parking lot, and we took the children from the car. So imagine, these children, some of them have never met me. And I say, okay, come on out. You're going to come with me and sit on a bench, and we're going to go to the classroom. And that's the only interaction I had with those parents, was that 1 minute of, I hope you have a great day. I'll bring your child out at 12,
Right.
So that was hard. But it was good to have them back in person. And we taught, I had 10 children and no assistant. So what a gift that was, to take those children for 3 or 4 hours a day and just me and them in the classroom.
So how large were your classes before?
15 to 18 with a full-time assistant.
Oh, okay. All right.
So lots of interaction, lots of activity.
Yeah.
So we had 10, and I was it. So we didn't let parents come in. We didn't have assistants come in. And you know what? We stayed well the entire year.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So you have 3 and 4-year-olds. So you usually have each child for 2 years. Does it usually work out?
No, they're all 3 when they start. So I have them for that entire year until they've all turned 4.
Oh,
And then they go
okay.
to a pre-K program.
Okay. All right. So you don't have them for that long, huh?
I get them for a year, and
Yeah,
it's
that's exciting.
And it's just amazing. So much growth happens in that year.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I am so lucky that parents bring their children to us. I mean, that's huge. I remember taking my firstborn to school and thinking, oh my gosh, will they love him? Will they, But I have always been blessed with great teachers for my kids, and that's what I try to do for them.
Oh, well, it certainly sounds like you have a lot of happy parents, for sure.
Great families. I
For
do.
sure. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. So, kind of crystal balling this, and I know you don't know for sure, but how do you see things progressing? Like in how you're going to be teaching?
All of 2020, we wore masks. And I thought, this is a disaster. This is horrible. The children, I've never met them. They don't know if I'm happy or I'm sad. So we practiced a lot of learning to read people's eyes. And we were successful. But I will never forget the day of graduation when I got to take my mask off in the courtyard outside. And they were like, oh my gosh.
That's what you look like.
And so this year we aren't masked. We are socially distanced and we're careful, but so we're taking those baby steps. So I'm praying that someday we'll be back to putting classes together for activities. One of the things that makes me most sad is we can't have school-wide huge events as much as we used to.
Of course.
I loved to go to chapel as the entire school and have the parents join us and do singing and music and things. We haven't quite gotten there yet. But we just make those changes as necessary so that we can still participate. We'll do a parent chapel, maybe just with my class, or we did a Halloween party outdoors on the courtyard. I had my first parent volunteer back in the classroom in 2 years this week.
How exciting.
It was for everybody. And it's so funny because when I offered it up, every parent wanted to come, because they want to be back in the classroom. So I'm hoping we're going to be able to go back to having more people together, integrating more children. Otherwise, it's going to continue like this, where we have 3 tables instead of 2, and we sit only 4 child at a table. But please, I just pray that someday this world is going to be sort of back to the way it was. Sane would be a good thing. Yeah, that would be a great thing. Yeah.
Be a great place to start. Yeah. Well, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. So you don't do anything online at all now?
No. And I was thinking about that, and my sister teaches kindergarten at a Christian school. And when they closed, the first day they closed, they went online on Zoom. And the stories she would share about trying to do kindergarten online, and the poor parents that would struggle. Like, they might have 3 children at home trying to do Zoom at the same time. You don't have the internet. It's crazy. So no, I don't do any online.
No, it's very, very difficult. Even a lot of different organizations have to do what they call hybrid, where they're doing it online for the people who can't be there, and then also having some in person. And those are 2 different animals.
Right.
And so it's very difficult to have a program that would be of benefit to both groups.
Right. And I think, so many children, you're either an effective learner online or you're not.
Right.
I have some children in my classroom, particularly boys, that to sit in front of a computer and watch me teach a lesson, especially, in preschool, we're doing fine motor skills, we're doing gross motor skills, we're doing music and dance. And, for them, that's not effective. Now, I have a sweet girl who would be happy to sit down and get her paper and scissors and cut while I'm doing on the other side. But, they all have their best way of learning, and that's what particularly we as parents need to figure out.
Sure.
Even at the age of 3 or 4, what is best? Is a Montessori education best? Is a traditional education with teacher-directed learning at tables best? It's hard, but we have to match that, I think, at all levels of education for the children, for them to learn best.
Absolutely. One size does not fit all. No.
We know that, right?
We do. Melody and I have been in youth ministry together for quite a few years, and we have stories, but that's another podcast. For sure. Mm-hmm. Well, Melody, this has been wonderful hearing about this. When we see each other, we're on the run. So it's nice to actually hear what you've been up to and how things are going.
Thank you.
So thank you so much for coming and being my guest. I love it.
I'm thrilled.
Well, good. Well, we ask our guests one question at the end of each podcast. And since the podcast is called On the Way Moments, we always ask, could you share with us one of your On the Way moments?
Yes, and I love your podcast, and I listen to them all as soon as they come out, and I love the On the Way moments, and when you ask me to do this, I'm like, I don't know. And I thought there's like a couple of stories I share all the time that really changed my life, but I came up with a new one for today.
All right.
And it is from when Shane and Austin were toddlers, and Faith wasn't even born yet. And I remember I was standing out in the courtyard right here, and I was checking them into Children's Chapel right here. And so I was still working in corporate America. I was traveling and busy. I was this businesswoman, and I remember saying to Rosa Probst, "So what exactly do you do in that Children's Chapel?" And her response was, "Come on in and find out." And the next thing I knew, I was a Children's Chapel leader. And I was scared to death and thought, I can't do that. And I fell in love with it. And I think based on this podcast, truly, that was a turning point for me. I went from being this very successful business person to wanting to minister to children and young families and share the love of Jesus with them. And if you'd have asked me that in college, I would have said there is no way. But what a gift that Rosa invited me into doing that, because I don't
Absolutely.
know that I would have ever found it.
Thank you, Rosa Probst.
And I think often that we say that here at St. Anthony's is that often people just need an invitation. Yes. And that's an example of somebody just saying, come on over and help me with this project. Or,
Right.
And Jill, I have to say, is very good at that. I always say I will do anything Jill asks, I think. But what a change in my life, just that one invitation, and that I would be 18 years in a Christian preschool and loving every minute of it.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. And I'll keep in mind that you won't say no to me.
You already knew that, Jill.
It's reinforced. It's reinforced. Well, thank you, Melody. This has been an absolute joy and so much fun. So, and thank all of you. And I hope that whatever platform you listen to this podcast or on YouTube, that you'll give us a thumbs up or leave a comment. We'd love to hear from you. And so in the meantime, all of you out there, please be on the lookout for your own on the way moment. Thank you and bye-bye.